Yeah. It's holy day today. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. I'm doing good. I am doing great, bro. I am doing amazing. I am doing amazing, amazing. Peace, everybody. I hope y'all doing amazing. It's a beautiful, holy day. I'm going to share some wisdom with y'all. My day got started about like 6:15. We had a good conversation with a lot of my religious brothers and sisters. And so I'm going to share the same info with y'all. Just give me a second. Let me get some things situated. I do this part of my charity, man. But all I just got to say, man, I'm just happy to be able to do, well, I have gratitude to be able to do what I do back in my city of Flint and travel and go to places and talk to dignitaries and travel all over as a holy man, as an educator, as a God man, no matter what color the people are, and I be accepted. And so I just give gratitude. And I'm trying to spread this to my people, but our people lost due to a lack of knowledge because a lot of our people refuse to learn. And I always tell people, if you're not growing, you dying. Point blank. But just give me a second, man. I want to let a couple people tap in. It's a lot going on in the world today. I always like to do subtopics before I get into my teaching, especially for my brothers and sisters in local cities, what they call the hardest hit fund, with people like you and I in charge. With all due respect, because I follow policy and law. Just in our city of Flint and in Dalton, where you have that diversity stuff, and you got people melanated in positions that's not educated and anointed, and they got in there by just a popularity vote, everything be in shambles. Just like in the city of Flint, the mayor and the city council, they don't agree on nothing. So nothing will never get done. They'll never agree on nothing, never get done. When the population has decreased and things still going up, taxes being high, but the property value is low. It's so much that our people missing because we don't know who we are, because we begging. But I'm going to talk about a specific topic. When I tell my brothers and sisters the work that I'm able to do, and we talking about funding, and we act like funding ain't there, man, funding is there. We just not organized. We just not organized. And we just not having the right conversations. So I'm going to share something with y'all. Give me 1 second. What'd he say? Okay. I'm sorry, y'all. I'm just responding to some emails that I got from this morning. Apologies. Apologies. What'd he say? All right. We've been on for 6 minutes. Okay. So I'm going to talk about two topics. I'm going to talk about how the Vatican and Islam, that connection. And then I'm going to do a little, I'll go over a little lecture topic that I did when I always ask people, have you ever been to a lecture? A lot of our people never been to a lecture. Then I say, well, at a lecture, we go over a specific topic, a topic at hand. And what was asked for me to speak on was how the Vatican created Islam. And I do this at a lot of Catholic churches and things because they know the history. Like I talk about the civils, the Mommy Waters at a Catholic church, and what they have. behind the red curtain. I talk about the Russian icons, which they have at the Vatican Church behind the red curtain, with all the the church fathers melanated in gold and pictures, which they have. I also talk about the god Artemis, how they whitewashed, and it's in the Catholic Church, and they know about these things. So when I speak of things, I come from scholarship, I come from academia, and I show you how people use certain things on people that they don't know, and it's used for power. Think about what I'm saying. And so when I do specific lectures, when people are religious, I say, don't come with your religious dogma with me. I come with origins and academia. You can believe in anything you want to believe in. That's on you. But when you're dealing with academia and you have to deal with scholarship and you have to deal with references and you have to deal with annotated bibliography and your information must cross border lines, it's only one science. It's only one scholarship. So that's what I'll be wanting to explain to my brothers and sisters when they get in tradition. I say, I don't mind your tradition, but your tradition is not law, sir, ma'am. Remember that. Religion separate man. Remember this. If we talk about the origin, especially the origin of Islam and a lot of these things, it would dry up. With all due respect, because things come from different things. So we're going to talk about this connection. It's a connection. It's a connection. What? It's a connection with the Vatican and Islam. It's a connection. When you research like the Jesuit priest, it's a document I told y'all to get. What was it? The Negro, the Indian, AKA the Blackamoor. I shared that with y'all. It's so much information in that doc to where people just be saying things and I say, let's stop that and let's deal with scholarship and you can see things with your eye. The Jesuit letters and XYZ. I'm gonna go get that doc. I shared it with y'all a plethora of times. But it's a how the Vatican created Islam in an astonishing story from an ex-Jesuit priest, Alberto Rivera, which was told to him by Cardinal B.E.A., while he was in the Vatican. So before I finish this, let me grab this little doc. I think I got it here. Hold on. This the doc right here. Y'all see this? Y'all see this? Everybody see this, right? Let me know if y'all see that. All you got to do is send me your email and I'll send it to everybody on here. My gift to you. Because I want you to deal with your brother. Get your documents from me. I'll give you stuff for small donations. Build your library up. But I'm going to stay on this topic. Y'all see this right here, right? Some people might have it. Some people may not. But I'm going to get you there faster than you can get by yourself. That's what a mapping guide does. Get you there faster than you can get yourself. And I can give you a crash course a crash course where you can take a test and pass. Because I'm going to give you all the questions that's going to be on the test. Why? Because I've been through the fire. That's why. So this doc right here. And it talks about so much, I don't want to stay too deep in this because we'll talk about this another time. But it got the Negroes as the original Indians, proof from the Jesuit letters. It's packed with wisdom. And this piece of document with the prophet and who set up the ancient and modern shrine. And when people act like they don't know what the 4th of July really is, the day of the Kiefer. And when I talk about certain individuals wore the fez and they passed out ID cards as well, and then things be pushed under the grave, in a shallow grave, because a lot of people sell out for different reasons. But when I get to the end of this, y'all see when I always give reference, you see who it was written to. Look what it says and the date. Look at the date. Look at the date all the way on the bottom. You can read that for yourself. So when people be acting like they don't know what I'm talking about, and they say they elders from these specific groups like the Nation of Islam, with all due respect in any other nation, then I say, well, this was passed out. So when I speak about things that's in certain individuals' record books, I'm telling you, things are recorded and individuals know. I'm telling you. And a lot know this small document right here that's packed with so much information, that's packed with so much power. I'm telling you, right in your hands. This small document, only about like 36 pages. And it's packed with so much power and wisdom, things where you can compare and contrast and see with your own eye. You need to have things where you can ask questions, so you can look at things, so you can come back, so you can have something to compare and contrast. I always talk about this in academia and history and XYZ and etc. and so forth. So let's get back in the topic at hand, right? So when I talk about things that some people don't want to talk about because of religious dogmatic perspective, I'm not here to do that. If I didn't know what I was talking about, no way I could have lectured at college and graduated and spoke to brothers and sisters from different religious backgrounds and do it right now today as a Moor, as a melanated brother, as a Sheik. I'm who I am. I ain't worried about what nobody else proclaims. I know who I am. I know how I travel. And my people know my voice. But when I talk about things, when I talk about instances and the destruction of the temple at Jerusalem and things by Nicholas Poussin, Poussin, it was in 1637. You can look up these things. Islam brother Lamarck. And this information came from Alberto Rivera. He was a former Jesuit priest. And remember, in this document, the real Indian is the Negro, aka the Blackamoor, is gonna have different Jesuit letters saying who the Negro, the Indio, all that is. And it's packed with way more info. That's why I say our people lost due to a lack of knowledge, because we refuse to learn. And we won't join our brother. We won't join our brother. We'll stay on the side. We're supposed to be unifying. We're supposed to be building something, just like Jeff Bezos built Amazon. Started selling used books just like I have. We should be supporting our own brother. And then not give gifts. I have a full library, over 1 million books, documents. We provide turbans and everything. We should be supporting our own. But this information came from Alberto Rivera, a former Jesuit priest, after his conversion to Protestant Christianity. And it is expected from the Prophet, published by Chick Publishings. It's a publishing company, P.O. Box 661, Chino, California. I always like to give the reference. But since his publication, after several unsuccessful attempts on his life, he died suddenly from food poisoning, and his testimony should not be silenced. Dr. Rivera speaks to us still. What I'm going to tell you is what I learned in a secret briefing in the Vatican when I was a Jesuit priest under oath and induction. A Jesuit cardinal named Augustine BEA, showed us how desperately the Roman Catholics wanted Jerusalem at the end of the 3rd century because of its religious history and its strategic location. The Holy City was considered a priceless treasure. A scheme had to be developed to make Jerusalem a Roman Catholic city, the great untapped source of manpower that could do this job with the children of Ishmael. The poor misnomer Arabs fell victim to one of the most clever plans ever devised by the powers of darkness. Early Christians went everywhere with the gospel, setting up small churches, but they met heavy opposition. Both the so-called Jews and the Roman government persecuted the believers in Christ to stop their spread. I'm just setting the precedent. But the Jews rebelled against Rome. Remember, Judah trembled under Rome? Y'all remember that book? And in 70 AD, Roman armies under General Titus smashed Jerusalem and destroyed the great Jewish temple, which was the heart of Jewish worship in fulfillment of Christ's prophecy in Matthew 24 and 2. On this holy place today, where the temple once stood, the Dome of the Rock of the mosque stands as Islam's second most holy place. Sweeping changes were in the wind. Corruption, apathy, greed, cruelty, perversion, rebellion were eating at the Roman Empire, and it was ready to collapse. The persecution against the Christians was useless as they continued to lay down their lives for that gospel of Christ. Stay in context. The only way that Satan could stop this thirst was to create a counterfeit Christianity religion to destroy the work. So the solution was in Rome, and their religion had came from ancient Babylon, and all it needed was a facelift. And this didn't happen overnight, but began in the writings of the early church fathers. Remember this. It was through their writings that a new religion would take place. The statue of Jupiter in Rome was eventually called, remember, St. Peter, and the statue of Venus was changed to what? The Virgin Mary. And the site chosen for the headquarters was one of the 7 hills called what? Vaticanus, or Vaticanus, the place of the diving spirit or serpent, where the so-called satanic temple of Janus stood. Remember? Remember the great counterfeit religion was Roman catechism called Mystery Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and abominations of the earth, Revelation 17 and 5. She was raised up to block the gospel, slaughter the believers in Christ, right? Establish religion, create wars, and make the nation drunk with the wine of her fornication, right? I'm just setting the precedent. 3 major religions have one thing in common. Each has a holy place where they took for guidance, right? Rome, catechism, looks to the Vatican as the holy city. Jews look at the Wailing Wall in Jerusalem. Muslims look at Mecca as the holy city, right? And each group believed that they received certain types of blessings for the rest of their lives for visiting the holy place. And in the beginning, no disrespect, the misnomer Arabs, I'm going to spell it A-R-A-B, not A-R-A-P. I can show you who the ancient Arabs are as well, A-R-A-P. You can research Vladimir Dale's 18, what is it, 18, it might be 23 or 28 dictionary, and his definition, explanation of what an Arab is, an ancient Arab, A-R-A-P. And you can get the book Arab by Bertram Thomas. But Arab visitors would bring gifts to the house of God, and the keepers of the Kaaba were gracious to all who came. Some brought their idols, not wanting to offend the people. Their idols were placed inside the sanctuary. It said that the Jews looked upon the Kaaba as an outlying tabernacle of the Lord with the veneration until it became polluted with idols. I mean, you can look at the Kaaba in Mecca in a trivial contention over a well, Zamza, the treasure of the Kaaba, and the offerings that pilgrims had given were dumped down the well, and it was so-called filled with sand. It disappeared. And many years later, Ab al-Muttalib was given visions. You remember, y'all know the story, telling him where to find the well and the treasure, right? Y'all know the story. He became a hero, right? And he was destined to become the grandfather of Muhammad. I mean, I know y'all know the backdrop. Before this time, Augustine became the Bishop of North Africa and was effective in winning Arabs to Roman Catholics, switching over, you know, including whole tribes. And it was among the misnomer Arabs, peace noble, converts to that catechism that the concept of looking for an Arab prophet developed. With all due respect, Muhammad's father, so-called, died from illness and sons born. The great Arab families in places like Mecca were sent into the desert to be suckled and weaned and spend some of their childhood with the Bedouins, those tried for training to avoid the plagues of the cities. You can research this stuff. I mean, of course, after his mother and grandfather died, Muhammad was with his uncle, a Roman Catholic monk, learned of his identity and said, "Take your brother's son back to his country and guard him against the Jews. For by God, if they see him and know of him that which I know, they will construe evil against him. Great things are in store for his brothers, sons of yours." And the Roman Catholic monk had fanned the flames for future Jewish persecutions at the hands of the followers of Muhammad. And the Vatican desperately wanted Jerusalem because of its religious significance. I mean, I hope people understand these certain backdrops. It's no disrespect to no one. Another problem was that the true Christians in North Africa who preached the gospel, the Roman Catholics, was growing in power, but would not tolerate opposition. Somehow the Vatican had to create a weapon to eliminate both the Jews and those Christians, or the Coptic Christians per se, who refused to accept that type of catechism, that Romanized Catholic science. And looking to the North Africa, they saw the multitudes of misnomer Arabs as a source of manpower. No disrespect. Some Arabs became a Roman Catholic, right? It's no disrespect, because some did. Some became Roman Catholic. Some could be used in reporting information to leaders in Rome. Others were used in an underground spy network to carry out Rome's master plan to control the great multitudes of Arabs who rejected that form of Catholicism. And remember, when St. Augustine appeared on the scene, he knew what was going on. And his monastery served as basis to seek out and destroy Bible manuscripts owned by those Coptics. You can see the history when we deal with the history and the origin of things, not coming from a biased religious perspective, because that's not my motive. Remember that the Vatican wanted to create a messiah for the misnomer Arabs, someone they could raise up as a great leader, a man with charisma whom they could train and eventually unite all the non-Catholic Arabs behind him, with all due respect, creating a mighty army that will ultimately capture Jerusalem for the Pope. And in the Vatican briefing, Cardinal Bay told us, and I quote, eloquently, with a silver tongue, "A wealthy Arabian lady who was a faithful follower of the of the Pope, played a tremendous part in this drama. She was a widow named Khadija. She gave her wealth to the church and retired to a convent, but was given an assignment. She was to find a brilliant young man who could be used by the Vatican to create a new religion and become the Messiah for the children of Ishmael. Khadija had a cousin named Werigwa, sound familiar, don't it? Who was also a very faithful Roman Catholic, and the Vatican placed him in a critical role as Muhammad's advisor. He had tremendous influence. Excuse me. Hold on. I'm sorry. Oh. But yeah, she was to find a brilliant young man who could be used by the Vatican to create a new religion and become the Messiah for the children of Ishmael. So in academia, when you researching, Khadijah had a cousin named Waragwa, who was also a very faithful Roman Catholic, right? So the Vatican placed him in a crucial area, right? And he had tremendous influence on Muhammad, right? That's what the story says. So teachers were sent to young Muhammad, and he had intensive training. Muhammad studied the works of St. Augustine, which prepared him for his great calling. The Vatican had Catholic Arabs across North Africa spread the story of a great one who was about to rise up amongst the people and be chosen and be the chosen one of their God. And while Muhammad was being prepared, he was told that his enemies were the so-called Jews, with all due respect, and that the only true Christians were the Roman Catholics. You see, we're just painting a pictorial. He was taught that the other calling themselves Christians were actually, he said that they were wicked imposters and should be destroyed. That's what he said. That's what they say many of them believe, you know? And they say Muhammad began to receive divine revelations, and his wife, Catholic cousin, Waragwa, helped interpret them. And from this time, the Quran, and in the 5th year of Muhammad's mission, persecution came against his followers because they refused to worship the idols of the Kaaba. If anybody would do the scholarship for a second, when we don't let religion separate us, when I tell everyone, I'm under the triple rose, I have a clear understanding of all religious so-called rites. The Paraclete, the Fatimid, the Jerusalem, the Christian per se, I have a clear understanding. I'm 99 degrees, with all due respect. So it's going to be a understanding and the truth that I'm going to display at all times. Remember, in a lot of the early instructions, Muhammad instructed some of them to flee to Abyssinia, where the Negus, the Negus, the Roman Catholic king, accepted them because Muhammad's view of the Virgin Mary were close to what? The Roman Catholic doctrine. Think about what I'm saying for a small tittle. And those Muslims that believed received protection from Catholic king because of Muhammad's revelations. And we're just giving a backdrop. We're just giving a backdrop. You know, Muhammad later conquered Mecca, and the Kaaba was cleared for idols. History proved that before Islam came into existence, the Sabians in Arabia worshipped the moon god, who was married to the sun god. And they gave birth to 3 goddesses who were worshipped throughout the Arab world as daughters of Allah, right? An idol excavated at Hazar in Palestine in the 1950s shows Allah sitting on a throne with the crescent moon on his chest. Let's take a peek at what I'm saying. You might not like what I'm saying, but you can't deny what I'm saying. You know? Muhammad claimed he had a vision from Allah and was told, "You are the messenger of Allah." This began his career as a prophet, and he received many messages. That's what the story say. By the time Muhammad died, the religion of Islam was exploding. The nomadic Arab tribes were joining forces in the name of Allah and his prophet, Muhammad. Some of Muhammad's writings were placed in the Quran. Others was never published. They are now in the hands of, they call high-ranking holy men, ayatollahs, is in the Islamic faith. But that's why I'm able to speak of these things, because I'm going to bring them piece by piece, little by little. And when Cardinal Bay shared with the Vatican, that was locked in those chambers, he said the writings are guarded because they contain information that links the Vatican to the creation of Islam, with all due respect. Both sides have so much information on each other. And if illuminated, it could create, which back then they said would be a scandal, that it would be a disaster for both religions. That was then. But now in academia, we talk about them. I got a professor that's Islamic, and he talks about this. I can show you professors that talks about this right now. Got YouTube channels. In their holy book, the Quran, Christ is regarded as only a prophet. And if the Pope was his representative on earth, then he also must be a prophet of God. This caused the followers of Muhammad to fear and respect the Pope as another holy man. With all due respect. And in this context, as we continue to teach, because we're teaching for education purposes only, I'm gonna have to start saying that before I start my lecture, for education and scholastic purposes only. But the Pope moved quickly and issued bulls. Remember when I talk about the papal bull? Research what the papal bull was, y'all, and the Dum Diversus. Just research a little of this stuff. When I say a lot of stuff is wrapped up in different phases of religion and masonry. I promise you. If you would be educated on just those two concepts, then we'll be able to go to something that we agree on and who we are. Because all those are going to go together. They're going to fit like a puzzle. I guarantee you. But yeah, issue bulls granting the Arabs general permission to invade and conquer the nations of North Africa. That's the papal bull, y'all. I hope y'all seeing this connection, what I'm doing. If you never seen the Arab slave trade, oh my God, people talk about some transatlantic slave trade. The Arab slave trade, with all due respect, you'll see why certain things is going on. With all due respect. With all due respect. But these bulls gave permission to, they saying it nicely, invade and conquer the nations of North Africa. So if the Pope granted a bull to invade and conquer, what you think that mean, invade and conquer? That mean eradicate. That mean, and that's what happened. Think about this. Think about the doctrine of discovery and all these things where you be like, man, yeah, this stuff, I see what you're talking about. You know? You're gonna say, I see what this brother is talking about. I'm coming from origin to bring things back to us. Think about it. They issued these bulls to invade and conquer the nations of North Africa. And the Vatican helped to finance the building of these massive Islamic armies in exchange for favors. One favor was to eliminate the so-called Jews and Christians, the true believers, which they call infidels, protect Augustinian monks and Roman Catholics, conquer Jerusalem for his holiness in the Vatican. That's just what the history says. So when you're looking at a double-headed, how can I say, dragon per se, when you're looking at one, but you're looking at the other per se. As time went by, the power of Islam became tremendous. Jews and true Christians were, dismantled. And Jerusalem fell into their hands. Remember, Judah trembled under Rome. I got all these books for y'all. Our elders wrote a lot of stuff. Everything is going to start fitting like a puzzle. You're going to be like, yep. We just haven't been introduced to these things, and the things that I talk about is common. I'm telling you. The Catholics were never attacked. nor were there shrines during that time. But when the Pope asked for Jerusalem, he was surprised at their denial. That's all I'm saying. And the misnomer Arab general had such military success that they could not be intimidated by the Pope during that time. Nothing can stand in the way. Remember, under Waradu's, under a direction, Muhammad wrote that the Arab offered Ishmael as a sacrifice, right? And the Bible says that Isaac was the sacrifice, but Muhammad removed Isaac's name and inserted Ishmael's name. And as a result of this and Muhammad's vision, the faithful Muslims built a mosque, the Dome of the Rock, in Ishmael's honor, on the site of the Jewish temple that was destroyed in 70 AD. And this made Jerusalem the second most holy place in the in Islam faith, right? Right, brothers and sisters? With all due respect, how could they give such a sacred shrine to the Pope without causing a revolt? I mean, y'all see things. I mean, I'm just not showing the pictures. When I do lectures and stuff, I usually show pictures and things, but this stuff is easily be pulled up now with social media. You know? I'm just setting a precedent. But the Pope realized what they had created was out of control when he heard they were calling His Holiness an infidel, and the Muslim generals were determined to conquer the world for Allah. And now they turned towards Europe. Islamic ambassadors approached the Pope and asked for papal bulls to give them permission to invade European countries. Y'all know that, right? You can look up a lot of history. But the Vatican was outraged. And then something had to happen. But so what happened is, as we continue to give the backdrop, the Pope raised up his armies and called them crusades to hold back the children of Ishmael for grabbing Catholic Europe. You know how the story goes. Turkey fell, and Spain and Portugal were invaded by Islamic forces. In Portugal, they called a mountain village Fatima in honor of Muhammad's daughter, never dreaming it would become world famous, remember? And years later, when the Muslim armies were poised on the islands of Sardinia and Corsica to invade Italy, there was a serious problem because the Islamic generals realized they were too far extended. And it was time for peace talks, remember? And one of the negotiators was Francis of Assisi, right? And as a result, the Muslims were allowed to occupy Turkey in a Christian world. And the Catholics were allowed to occupy Lebanon in the Arab world, remember? It was also agreed that the Muslims could build mosques in Catholic countries without interference as long as Roman Catholics could flourish in Arab countries. I mean, it's just the backdrop when you see things are similar and you be like, well, what the hell is people, like Jay said, what the hell are you fighting for? I made that up. But Cardinal B told a lot of the students in the Vatican briefing that both the Muslims and the Roman Catholics agreed to block and destroy the efforts of their common enemy. Excuse my candor. This is what they say, which was Bible-believing Christendom, missionaries. Through these concordats, a.k.a. Satan blocked the children of Ishmael from a knowledge of Scripture and the truth. That's what the backdrop says. A light control was kept on Muslims for the Adala down through the Islamic priests, nuns, and monks. And the Vatican also engineers a campaign for this beef between the so-called Muslim Arabs and the so-called Jews per se. This is just the backdrop. Before this, they had coexisted peacefully. And this Islamic country looks on the Bible-believing missionary as the with the horns, I'm just being, I'm just trying to give a pictorial without saying that, because you know how TikTok be, who brings poison to the children, And the next plan was to control that form of Islam. In 1910, Portugal was going socialistic. Red flags were appearing at the Catholic Church, and it was facing major problems when you see the backdrop of things. And you remember the Jesuits wanted Russia involved, and the location of this vision at Fatima could play a key part in pulling Islam to the mother church. You see how all this stuff is tied together, y'all? Even when I tell y'all about groups and about politics and politicians, man, they all be in the same group. In 1917, the Vatican appeared in Fatima. You know, some people say Fatima, but Fatima, however you want to pronunciate it. The Mother of God was a smashing success, playing to overflowing crowds. As a result, the socialists of Portugal suffered a major defeat. Then you had the Roman Catholics worldwide began praying for the conversion of Russia, and the Jesuits invented the Novens to Fatima, which they could prefer throughout North Africa, spread good public relations to the Muslim world, and the misnomer Arabs thought they were honoring the daughter of Muhammad, which is why the Jesuits wanted them to believe. You see how all this stuff ties together? When you look at the vision of Fatima, the Pope Pius ordered his Nazi army to crush Russia and the Orthodox religion and make Russia Roman Catholic. Remember? We just talking about this is history. Remember? And a few years after he lost to World War II, remember? Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. My fault. I don't know what's that is. I don't know what's that. Talk about some gift stuff, but I ain't worried about receiving stuff. I don't know what that be talking about. That's why when you on TikTok, you gotta speak kind of politically correct. They be trying to cut you off and saying you using these type of words. I'll be like, oh man. That's why I tell everybody follow my YouTube channel. You know. But with all due respect, let's proceed. But these things in history has happened, and we just don't know. You know? But what all this has to do with Islam, remember? If you understand what I'm saying, the lady appearance of Fatima marked the turning point in the history of the world's, how can I say, 350 Muslims, if we dealing with that time. And after the death of his daughter, Muhammad wrote that she is the most holy of all women in paradise next to Mary. And he believed that the Virgin Mary chose to be known as Our Lady of Fatima as a sign and a pledge that the Muslims who believe in Christ's virgin birth will come to believe in his divinity. Bishop Sheen points out that the pilgrim virgin statue of Our Lady Fatima were enthusiastically received by Muslims in Africa, India, and elsewhere, and that many Muslims are now coming into the Roman Catholic Church. And and those topics that we talked about, we're not saying that that anyone is doing that may be Muslim or Catholic or anything. But what we do is we talk about origin and history of these specific things, because it is an origin and a history. And that's what I've been wanting, brothers and sisters, to really, really, really understand the origin and history. And this document right here, that's why I tell y'all, all you got to do is send me your email. I'll send you this as a free gift. I have a full library. I'll send you this as a free gift because I want you to get all your books and your documents from me. I'll print and bind them like this. I'm going to show y'all some more. Some of the books I was talking about yesterday, I'll show you the expensive ones. I have them right here. But you have all this in your email as an ebook, and it break things down. Very simple. But I had the pleasure to be on a panel, and this was a couple of years ago, if I'm not mistaken. I have to see if I have it in my files. But my professor, I had a professor that's an Islamic, sit on a couple chairs, and I also had different professors that in the Catholic faith. I just had the pleasure to study from all different backgrounds, and I had the pleasure to be a part of groups like the Philosophical Research Society and the Scholars Roundtable. I had the pleasure to do research at Oxford and Cambridge, and at least frequent their libraries. Peace, Noble Brian. I've had the pleasure. I know how to look up in the Royal Archives, and I just have a lot of connections. And then I just have a certain interest that some people may have and some people may not. But I know I do have a specific gift, and I continue to do this every day. But I was able to sit and talk with some professors, you know what I mean, on specific things, and we was talking about that, like Islam and Catholics, just like I was talking before, and there was a lot of Islamic brothers there, a lot of scholars, because a lot of people really want to know, and a lot of things people don't know, you know. But when you're able to sit down and go over these things with people, you have to remove the dogma, you know. You have to, right? So I'll just give a little backdrop on how the conversation started. And anybody can ask anything. What I like to do tonight is to provide you all with some very broad, what you say, Noble? Is this a linking of the Seabees and the Great Mother? Ah, watch. Watch what you about to see. Watch what you about to see. Watch what you about to see, Noble. Hopefully, we will shatter some stereotypes that might have been caused by some called the media or different people. And hopefully, the brother of the student that's here to learn, you will leave here with a deeper understanding of what it is that Muslims believe and why their faith tradition is so dear to those individuals. Remember, I always deal with reason and understanding. I understand so I can have this conversation with everyone. But if we're gonna do these conversations and this reason, we have to give both angles. We can't just give one side because that's not. It won't be a complete. It won't be complete. So we begin with some math, just to make the point that when I talk about Muslims and Christians, and I did this a while ago. So say, as of 2012, it were about 54.7% of the global population. What? Muslim and Christians combined. And it's closer today, you know? So we could, so we could talk about, it really do depends on the ability of so-called Muslims and Christians to find ways of working together to address global concerns and challenges. In academia, I already connected the Bible and the Quran. I've done that a plethora of times. People are off linguistically, and they just not gonna deal with that aspect of words that has synonyms. And when you start researching it from a righteous place, you'll be like, man, I've been staring at this and I've been taught wrong. Yes, I already synchronized the Bible and the Quran. I've done it a plethora of times. But oftentimes you hear certain people, they say that Islam is a religion of peace. And then we hear others say Islam is a religion of war. And so when Muslims express that they feel that Islam is a religion of peace, they're trying to tell you something about, how can I say, maybe a language. I'm not saying it all, but maybe a certain type of language, maybe an Arabic language per se. Not to get into this a linguistic debate with anyone, but Arabic words are formed on the basis of three root letters. And a lot of times you see how we know them. And a lot of times in writings, they'll be in bold print. And the words for Islam, the religion meaning submission, a Muslim who would be a person who adheres to the faith of Islam, to the faith of Islam. And the word for peace, salam, all share those same three root letters of the S, the L, and the M. And so what Muslims are trying to convey is that the submission to God is intended to lead to relationships of peace between God and oneself, between God and other people, and ultimately, hopefully, with the whole world. So this idea of submission per se is supposed to guide your relationship with others. You know? And Muslims believe that the book called the Quran is the final, perfect, and complete revelation that God gave to one individual, the Prophet Muhammad. You know, over a period of time in the Arabic language, it may interest the student to know that the purpose of the Quran was actually to confirm and reaffirm prior revelations. And the Quran often talks about the Torah, the Psalms, and the Gospels as genuine revelations that were received from God and given to humanity. And a concern was that there seemed to have been perhaps some errors and omission on perhaps misinterpretations that were introduced over a certain amount of time. And this is why God revealed the Quran to sort of correct those problems once and for all. I'm just setting the backdrop. So if you don't believe that, don't say, "Oh, he said this." If at one of my lectures at GCU or another place, I'm coming from a specific topic. I want you to research. Muslims often say that the Quran is inherently pluralist, meaning that it recognizes more than one faith tradition as being true, because there are verses that talk specifically about Jews, Christians, Sabians as people who will go to paradise in the afterlife if they live out the teachings of their faith tradition, right? So it's not a call for them all to convert to a certain religion called Islam, right? But to be faithful to the faith traditions that they do adhere to, right? Peace, Brother Wesley. It also talks about how God could have made everybody exactly the same, but that God likes diversity, and that God created diversity with a purpose. And the purpose was so that different tribes and nations and groups of people could come to know one another. In other words, human beings were created with the intent of living in community and building relationships with one another, rather than maintaining separateness. And when Muhammad received the revelation per se, it was spoken to him through the angel Gabriel. And yes, this is the same Gabriel who appears in the New Testament to make the announcement to the Virgin Mary of the pending conception and birth of Jesus, right? And Muhammad said sometimes it was very easy for him to hear what the angels were saying. And sometimes he had to listen really, really hard because there would be other noises like bells, clanging in the background per se. And he really had to work hard to listen. This is the story. Muslims believe that the Quran is literally the word of God spoken to Muhammad. And that is a part of the reason why there has been some reluctance amongst Muslims to subject the Quran to the kind of a historical and literary criticism that oftentimes occurs with respect to the Bible. Anybody here read the Bible in its entirety? I ask them, I say, I know people with all backgrounds. I know Lutherans, I know Catholics, Christians, I know Muslims, I know atheists, all that, you know? So when people say, have you read the Bible in its entirety? I have. A lot of my Lutheran friends, that's what they have to do. My homeboy I went to GCU with, because I got my dual master's degree in religious studies, he's Lutheran. That's something that they had to do. He was astounded that I knew just as much and even more as he knew. And then I was able to meet and talk with his parents and stuff and hold meetings and things like that and XYZ. Beautiful thing. But when you meet different Muslims and things, I'd be shocked to learn from a lot of different perspectives. I have Muslim friends growing up, early young, I didn't understand a lot. I asked a lot, you know, but a lot of Muslims when I was young, early young, like they used to say that the coming of Muhammad was actually foretold in the Bible, and I said, really, you know. We and these good conversations and when I started thinking about things, I remember I asked my homeboy dad this, and he was like, "Oh, you're gonna be something." He was like, "You're gonna be something," because I'm coming with love and understanding. That's why I'm able to go in Catholic churches and all this stuff and speak. Because when I got my dual master's degree, that's what I was around. I was able to speak like this from scholarship, from origin. But when he said that, when he said my Muslim homeboy when I was young, he said that the coming of Muhammad was actually foretold in the Bible. And I said, I didn't remember reading that part. And I asked him, can you tell me where? I remember this now, you know? And he was like, so, no. It's in the Gospel of John, chapter 16, verse 5 through 13. And if you're interested in it, and it takes place on the night of Jesus' betrayal, just shortly before his arrest, he speaks of disciple, and he says, watch this. This is what he say. But remember, man, when you reference and research and you deal with linguistics, a person can be as passionate as they want. But when we're dealing with the facts and when we're dealing with the real thing, just because you passionate and you sincere, you can be sincerely wrong. And you have to accept it. If not, then you're not a truth teller. You have a motive. That's all I'm saying. This is what he said, and I quote, now I am going to him who sent me, yet none of you asked me, where are you going? But because I have said these things, you are filled with grief. But I tell you the truth. It is for your good that I'm going away. Unless I go away, the counselor will not come to you. But if I go, I will send him to you. And when he comes, he will convict the world of guilt in regard to sin and righteousness and judgment. In regard to sin, this is what the text says. Because men do not believe in me. In regard to righteousness, because I'm going to the Father, where you can see me no more, or no longer. And in regard to the judgment, because the prince of this world now stands condemned, I have much more to say to you, more than you can now bear. But when he, the Spirit of truth, comes, he will guide you into all truth. He will not speak on his own. He will speak only what he hears, and he will tell you what is yet to come. Now, with all due respect, Christians understand that to be a reference to the Holy Spirit, the Paraclete. Now remember, I always tell you, as a Sufi, as a shaman, I tell everyone I'm under the triple rose. I understand all three religious rites, the Paraclete, the Fatimid, the Jerusalem. So, but Muslims, when they hear the passage, they think about how the Quran was spoken to the Prophet Muhammad, and that he spake only what he heard. He was known as a counselor during his own lifetime, and he was someone whose message very clearly focused on warning of the judgment that was to come and condemnation of the ills of the world, not simply in terms of worshiping false idols per se, but also in the terms of the widespread of social injustice that existed at that time. See, watch this synchronicity. Just like Christians, Muslims historically have debate what the best method of interpreting the Quran is. And there seems to be a tendency when we interpret our own scripture that we do this in a polysemic way, that we recognize that there may be multiple meanings to any text, and there are different ways in which you can read it. But when we read somebody else's revelation, brothers and sisters, oftentimes we tend to read it very literally and assume that what it says literally is what it means. And that can lead to sometimes some unfortunate interpretations or misinterpretations. Remember this, and so on. I don't want, and I want to assure you that there are many Muslim scholars who engage in a polysemic interpretations of the text. There's no disrespect. It's not always literally, but they look to see how a particular theme might fit with respect to the entire Quran. They look at to see how particular terms are used throughout the entire text, so that you are not allowing one verse alone to offer you the final word on the text actually says. Just like when I talk about tools, when we study in the Bible, when people come and I say, well, one tool is hermeneutics and hermeneutics. Hermeneutics and hermeneutics. I just call it one tool. And it's the attention to looking at themes, which themes are the most important, which one are talking about the most, and what might that indicate to you and I as to what we should think about it. So this is the tools that you need to decipher biblical scriptures, no matter if it's the Quran or whatever. Interpretations. What the word means, no matter if it's English or Arabic or Paleo, whatever. But one thing that Muslims take very seriously is the memorization or the recitation of the Quran. And they always do this in Arabic, regardless of whether or not they speak the language. With all due respect. This is done out of respect for the Arabic text as God's literal, revealed word to human beings. And if you ever study a foreign language, you know sometimes it's hard to fully translate certain words. And they may have multiple meanings in the original language that you can't quite capture in English. And so there is the desire to preserve the Arabic language of the text. So when you memorize and when you recitate are not just individual endeavors, but there are competitions held at local, national, and even international levels for recitation. Even in Indonesia, it's popular. Indonesia, by the way, has the largest Muslim population in the world. And they don't all live in the so-called Middle East. There are more Muslims in Indonesia than there are in the entire Middle East. It's all different type of, when we say Muslims, as I show you all different over the world, or Muslims, however you want to deal with it. But Indonesians practice of the Quran recitation. Those things are very, very popular. You know? So when I talk about things, man, and when we talk about celebration, and when we talk about in this context, because I can talk about the origin of Muhammad and really, really go from a perspective and be like, well, damn, this is going to clear up a lot because they're going to come to a lot of an empty road, per se. But just for speaking points, in this context, when a person asks who is the Prophet Muhammad, and before anybody worries that anybody's going to be offended by pictures and things, you know, a lot of people come from a Persian perspective, you know, and the one way which the Prophet has been depicted in artwork historically. When I show you how a lot of times veils be over things and you see certain hands and you wonder why things are covered. And then when you're dealing with science, remember it's never with a picture of a certain individual or things what we're talking about. So when we deal with the esoteric, with the close companions, it'll just take you to a whole nother level. But I want to stay in context for speaking points. You will notice that the face is not shown. He's shown wearing a veil so that we don't have to worry about any potentially worshiping Muhammad rather than God. That's the saying. But when you start seeing certain families and when you start seeing the bloodline and this, that, and the other, you be like, well, this is his mother and father and this his blah, blah, blah. Well, he got to look like this based on bloodline. And that's what you will start seeing historically. You know, from a lot of Muslims that I study with, they'll say that Muhammad was strictly a human being. He was not a divine figure. Nevertheless, they believe that he is the most perfect human being who has ever lived because he represents what it means to live out of the out the teachings of the Quran. As one of Muslim friends say, Muslim reference is to Muhammad. Muslims reverence is to God. What he said Muslims reverence is to Muhammad. Muslim reverence is to God. Muslims spend a lot of time studying the Prophet's example called the Sunnah, which are recorded in literature called the Hadith. And these are records of sayings and doings of the Prophet. And sometimes you only have one Hadith that will talk about an issue, but oftentimes you'll have hundreds, if not thousands, about the same incident. And the reason for that is that Muhammad didn't spend a lot of time by himself. He always had a entourage of people with him. He had friends and companions, kind of like Jesus, Yahshua, and his disciples, who will follow him around. You get all of those different people who are present to hear him speak or respond to a particular issue. Everybody has their own version of the story. So I can go on and on with this connection because these are just some of the things I was able to speak on as I travel, as I lecture. Muhammad is believed to be the last in a very long line of prophets and messengers that began with Adam and continued through Jesus, Yahshua, and John the Baptist. And if you're wondering what the difference between a prophet and a messenger is, prophets were generally not very popular people. Prophets were given a message from God, but oftentimes people did not respond very positively to these messengers. They chased them out of the town. Remembering, as us Moors, a prophet and angel sometimes is no good in his own country. But then in our 101s, what is a prophet and an angel? A man or a woman clothed in the flesh that's giving you a divine message and a divine warning. That's what this is about, you know? So, also, y'all, like, there's so much stuff that connects. Because there have only been like 5 messengers according to Islamic teachings. When I tell people we cannot be afraid of these 2 pieces of literature, they're going to tie together. First one was Noah in Christianity. Noah isn't a prophet because he never really says anything per se. He just does what the Creator tells him to do. But he does speak in the Quran, right? The other 4 are Abraham, Moses, Jesus, Yahshua, whatever you want to call it, and of course, Muhammad itself, right? And some of the other prophets who are shared in common between the Bible and the Quran include Aaron, Adam, David, Elijah, Elisha, Ezekiel. Hell, how can the Bible talk about Enoch and the Quran talk about Enoch and Enoch supposed to ascend to heaven without dying with who? Come on, man, y'all know. Who did Enoch ascend to heaven to and both of the figures didn't die? It's in your Bible. John the Baptist, Jonah, Joseph, Lot, Solomon. So many characters from the Old Testament and a few from the New Testament. You got to understand this. According to tradition, Muhammad was born in the year 570, and he lived until the year 632. Right? He only began receiving prophecies in the year 610, and when he was 40 years old. Now we know in American culture that 40's a so-called bad number. That's what they say. We don't want to turn 40. You know people like, oh, 40. Some of us turned 40 a long time ago. 40 is not something we really look to, per se, when people just talking about this. But I love it. So I'm going to share an Islamic tradition. 40 is the number of perfection. 40 is the number of perfection. It is the age when you receive wisdom. So 40 is something to look forward to. And so there's a symbolic importance to his having received the message at the age of 40. Remember, biblical scriptures, all biblical scriptures are written in analogy, parable, and symbology. Always. 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 And during the early years, okay, I got you. But during the years of his ministry, Muhammad was in a city called Mecca, right? And there are some scholars who have noted that the more universal message was revealed during that time. It's a lot of talk about the coming day of judgment and the idea of there being an afterlife, and the idea that the actions that you undertake in this lifetime matter in a very internal way. I don't know, bro. I can't tell you. I'm reading two things. It's also very interesting that during that time, violence was absolutely forbidden to the Muslim community, even in forms of like we call self-defense. So in the year 622, Muhammad was invited to come to another town called Medina, right? He was invited there because this town had been caught up in a tribal war, right? Tribal wars. Think about this stuff, y'all. It's also very important to note everybody who lived in Medina decided to convert to Islam. The pagan tribes remained pagan, and there were certain Jewish tribes that lived there who remained Jewish. But what did, excuse me, but what they did was they all signed a pact together. And this was a security agreement that if any one of those tribes was attacked by the outside, everybody who signed unto that pact agreed to act in defense of that community. So Muslims refer to this as the Pact of Medina or the Constitution of Medina, and will often say that this is really the world's first written constitution. So it's a point of pride for many of them. You see, some of the controversies were here with respect to Muhammad have to do with the use of violence. It was a military leader, fought in battles. Part of that was because of the position as a head of state. Remember a lot of Christianity, a lot of Islamic stuff, it was all wrapped up in war. And once an allegiance had been a treaty relationship had been established with the tribes in Mecca that had been persecuting the early Muslims, though he was willing to engage in a treaty relationship with them and lay down arms. So the purpose of his fighting was not to annihilate the enemy and wipe him off the face of the earth, but rather to bring the enemy to a point where they could start to negotiate by war. You hear that? What kind of relationship they could have so that peaceful relations and certainly commercial relationships could be restored. That sounds familiar, don't it? And when a lot of times, with all due respect to when Muslims, when they say Muhammad, most times when you think about Muslims, you think about some misnomer Middle East, right? I'm just setting the precedent, man. So I got a lot of more notes that I did when I did this speaking about this connection and about even the so much stuff that go along and our synonyms with this teaching and Islam. You'll be like, well, why this stuff is so similar? And then when I talk about the aspect I deal with is Sufism, you know, because I'm a Tasawwuf. I don't study anything outside of myself. Anything outside of myself is true shirk. I love everybody. I teach everywhere. I teach anyone. I live in Arizona, and a lot of times people be asking me, it should be easy to do things at home, and I tell you it's not. You know, it's not. I'm in a red state, Arizona, where I'm able to do a lot of the stuff that I do here in my spare time, I do in real life. So I'm just trying to get to the point where I get like a Pied Piper and I'm welcoming all my people churches and they have me come. Just like you see Farrakhan going to the churches and things. Like I'm anointed and consecrated in what I'm talking about. Our city of Flint ain't that big. I've gathered and compiled, I've written over 20 books. I have a full library. We more than just basketball players and hoop players and all that stuff. Like we fishers of men and women. And everybody is spiritual that I know. So we should be bringing things to the storehouse and be like, wait, because most churches I know is old and they dying. The building's just going to be sitting here crumbling. But what we doing? I tell everybody this. I said, dude, we letting the people, how can I say, take control of something that's ours, and letting the wrong people represent something that's really good. We supposed to be promoting the ones that's good, for we can be dispelling the curse. You know, you know, A lot of people be asking me like, what are the five pillars? I say it's a lot of beautiful things. The pillar number one is Shahada, the declaration that there is no God but the one God, and that's followed by a statement that Muhammad is God's messenger. It's recognized of the Quran as God's revelation to the prophet. It's a statement of absolute monotheism and a statement of belief in revelation. So everybody down with monotheism, no matter what you call it, when you get a historical origin of what we're talking about. So if you need a Christian parallel, like the Shahada, and when people say that mark your membership into Muslim community, if you need a Christian parallel, that would be baptism. Think about what I'm saying. Things are synonyms, things are synonymous. Like I said, we can compare and contrast. And if you have any truth in you, which should be in your heart, you'll be like, sir, you right. And I'll be like, I know. So now we have to continue to disperse some things. Because when I show you the only misunderstanding from the Bible and the Quran is linguistics. Peace, noble, peace, God, peace, peace. That's all I'm telling people. I said the misconnection is linguistics. I promise you. If I show you the synchronicity of the Quran and the Bible, it's linguistics. That's the only thing. That's the only thing you will be missing, is linguistics. I'll break it down as the child can understand it, or I'll get an analogy. I'll pull my teeth out, and we can get on the breast, and you can follow me hand by hand, and you will agree. With all respect. You know? With all respect. And it says you're supposed to take your shahada in front of two witnesses because this is a public statement, a public act, that you are joining into a community. Remember, a community, the second pillar of the five pillar prayers, the music you heard, the call of prayer. It's just like in more science, it's things that we do, things that we wear. When standing on your squares, it's having your sheik and your prophet and doing certain things to uplift all of humanity. For we can to build, that's what it's about. To bring people to the storehouse. You know? And it's like I tell my Islamic brothers about five prayers, all that. I said I'm fine with you, but I do the al salat. I love like I tell people. I said before somebody brought some stuff to you, man. What about your ancestors? What about your medicine men? What about your shamans? I get certain things. I get things in books, but man, before we had some books, man, we had signs and symbols of the primordial men. We had our ancestors. We had our teachers. Even when I deal with the African spirits, when I tell people, I never let no one take away my culture. They just broke it. They just took a lot of our culture and broke it in certain religions. When you see the European Jews twirl the chicken and twirl it and throw it and do all that, that's African culture. I hope you know that. So when people say, well, what do more study in this? I said, what do you mean? It's one nationality and many cultures. We study a plethora of things. If everybody understand here at the BBT, the Temple and School, and the brothers that's under the auspices of what I'm able to give, we are under the triple rose. We don't gravitate to one science where we miss the rest. It's just like if you came to my dojo, you're going to learn a plethora of things. One, you're going to learn to be on time. What you say, Islam Key Weekend in the island, Russ Bay, in Trinidad and Tobago. Peace. Peace and love to you. And love to y'all out there, Noble. Peace and love. We got to link up. But one, you're going to learn what? Discipline. One is coming on time. One is having your uniform a certain way. Most people, when you go in a dojo, I hope you know how to tie your belt. I hope it's certain things, tradition that we're going to adhere to. We're going to be very disciplined. It's going to be a certain way that we operate. It's going to be a certain way that we train. The mind, body, and spirit is going to be right. We're going to be gardeners. All those things goes along with a certain community. Think about what I'm saying. So I don't have no problem with my brothers and sisters that say they're Christian, if you understand. If you say you under certain Islamic studies, okay. If you under certain Kemetic studies, okay. Okay. So now we should be able to have a conversation because I'm going to agree to certain things from scholarship and you're going to agree. So now that means we can build on something. What? Truth and understanding. Because I'm down with certain traditions all through the day. We mentioning and remembering the Creator in our mind, in our body, in our spirit, in our actions. And I'm down with this is about keeping God as a very active presence in your life. I'm with that. And it's not intended to be a burden. In the teaching, it said Prophet Muhammad said that Islam was not to be a burden to the people. So there are exceptions to the rule. If you happen to be away on travel, for example, you're allowed to collapse the prayer times into 3 times a day. But see, we're talking about certain tradition things. Now remember, I'm not Orthodox. I do things the Moorish way. So I'm a walk and pray. I pray all the time, over and over. It's no set time for me. Remember, I'm under the Al-Salat. And when I show my Muslim brothers in their Quran, I say, I have no problem doing that, but I'm connected to God. Those times I knew it was going to be a long time. That's my rest time, with all due respect. It's in your Quran, with all due respect. You know? So when we speak of things and from different perspectives, I'll just be wanting people to really have a clear understanding. Even if you heard of the Old Testament, the benediction about the Lord blesses you and keep you, the Lord make his face shine upon you. That's lifting his head. The Lord lift his countenance upon you and give you peace. May he grant your request. So a very nice symbolic connection, right? Once every year, Muslims are expected to give what? 2.5% of their entire wealth. That's not income after taxes, Social Security, Medicare. This is 2.5% of your entire wealth, right? The zakat is proven to be a real challenge for Muslims. Remember? All these things. Ramadan, where Muslims are supposed to fast. The fast traditionally begins at the moment when you can distinguish a so-called black thread from a white thread. And then the fast ends for the day when the sun goes down. You know, and they follow a lunar calendar rather than a solar, which means that the year is shorter. And that means that the month of Ramadan circulates through all of the seasons, right? I could talk about more and more and more. But I want people to see connections, you know? That's what I want people to be seeing so people can't separate us anymore. It's a lot that we don't know, man. It's a lot that we haven't touched, you know, especially this document here. It's a lot that we haven't been able to discuss. And so when I come on here and I say I'm not a know-it-all, but what I know will clear a lot of things up, will clear a lot of confusion. I know what I know. You know what I'm saying, family? I know what I know. Mm, I couldn't tell you, brother. That's what I know, man. And so I be wanting people to come on here and okay. For we can have real discussions of real topics. It's a lot going on in the world today, and just especially from a perspective of history and who we are, man. I still can't believe. I still can't believe that we still here, and the worst of us, and they got us still arguing over religion. Like still today, they still have us arguing over religion. A group of people that's in a small community, and we still don't fellowship together. So these are some of the books I was talking about yesterday, how we print and buy. When I was telling people to look them up on Amazon to see how much they cost. This book is $1,000 on Amazon. This book is $1,000 on Amazon, and it's only paper. I lectured this at the college campus, and it was about like 45, maybe 50 students, maybe, and they all purchased this from me because I have printed them out because they asked me to. But a lot of them, they just got the ebook because they don't travel with books. They have everything on their tablet. This book is $1,000 on Amazon. You can look it up. You can look it up right on Amazon. It's called Melanin, a Chemical Key to Black Greatness. The harmful effects of toxic drugs on melanin centers within the black human. Bobby Hemmett had this on a shelf on one of his lectures. This book is $1,000 on Amazon. I have it for you. This other one, Forgotten Call of the Civil War, I just got the cover in black and white. By Tenzer. This book is $1,000 on Amazon. This book is $1,000 on Amazon. It's only paper. Russian Icons by Vladimir Ivanov. This book is about, I think, close to 500. And when I told y'all the icons, I don't know, and it got a lot of, I'll show y'all what I mean, icons, not ancient blacks, icons, Russian icons. So let me give you a backdrop. The Irish Books, editor Dr. Hands, all plates copyright from 1953, printed by a company in Switzerland, Swiss edition. Let me show y'all, and it's breaking down all the plates. Plate 1, the Archangel Michael, school. This come from Moscow. Plate 2, the Annunciation, coming from Strugnagva school, Moscow. But it's just showing what it's breaking down each plate that you're gonna see. Hold on. List of the monochrome illustrations. But I want to read something real quick, fast. Let me see. The plate. Okay. So in here, they got all the Russian icons that they have in their museum in Russia, and they explaining what the plates are. Some of them I couldn't get in color because of the way the printer was set up. But most of them, like 90, almost all of the plates, I was able to get the originals and have the printer scanned it and this original pictures and things. So I was blessed to be able to get that, and the pages came out beautifully. Some of them I didn't get in color, just a few, just because. And then the art style, they even changed the nose a little bit to make them sharper. But I'm going to tell you, as a lot of the more older ones, the nose is more Africanoid. But I just want to show you. And this stuff is in the Catholic Church too. They got a lot of the stuff in gold. They got chairs like in gold. I was like, oh my God. Let me see. Let me show y'all a couple more. Show y'all a couple more plates. Catholic Church, the Vatican got this. The Vatican and the Catholic Church even got the book, the Symbols of the Mami Waters, and they are Moors too. They know about everything I'm talking about because they have the stuff. See what I'm saying? Let me show y'all a couple more of the plates. Somebody sent me a video of a dude doing a YouTube video over this. He started off to talk about some ancient blacks. He was like, I don't have the book, I just pulled it up. Somebody was like, see, people always just talking about stuff. They was like, they not ancient blacks. Ain't no such thing as no ancient blacks. There's no such thing as ancient blacks. There's no such thing as ancient blacks. These are Russian icons. It's like when I take you to Europe, and when I show you the Swarty Pie, aka Black Pete, they're Britons. Just like when I can take you to another level, and I can show you the Iberian, they're Moors too. No such thing as an ancient black. So those are just some of the plates. A Russian icon, this ancient book by Vladimir Ivanov. Just some of the plates. These are ancient plates. Yeah. So like I be telling y'all, man, it's so much more historically. It's so much more like stuff. Like if anybody ever seen this, like it's a lot of things where you'll be like, oh my goodness, like you'll be able to see. This is what our temples and our churches need to have. They need to have scholarship. They need to have history. So brothers and sisters can change how they operate with each other. So you can see what's really going on with your eye. So you can have a clear idea of how things was written. But we waste our time shuckling and jiving, working till our fingers are just numb. You know? What you say, Noble? Well, let me see what somebody said, because I'm reading something on here. You said, keep it coming. It's time for folks to start learning the truth. Yes. And it's right in our face. When people don't understand, this is the talisman of the United States, the mysterious street lines of Washington, D.C., the signature of the invisible brotherhood. I'm telling y'all, like, things is here. How can I say this, man, and be politically correct? When I went to Arizona, when I started going to GCU, I met potentates. And I met Scottish Rite Masons. I met some lower level Negro Prince Hall Masons. I couldn't join them, and I couldn't join the other man. Why? Because the science that I knew, it trumps that too. And so I had to have enough understanding to get my own charter. And that's why I said when I get accepted by my brothers and sisters, that's when the floodgates will happen. I'm just not accepted with my brothers and sisters right now. It might happen, and I hope when I turn to an old man like John Henry Clark or Dr. Ben, I hope it don't be when I get all old, because I'm an elder right now, and then I get accepted. I don't want to be like Muhammad Ali and have to be just lecturing with Europeans, and they want to hear what I'm saying and get all my wisdom and just pay me, and I can't even get my people to rock with me. So a lot of things that I do on here, I come from the dome. I have like a temple and school. I have a charter. I have a curriculum for elementary kids. I deal with ADHD. I travel all over. I do lectures. Man, I just did a lecture at the Catholic Church. I graduated from Clear University in Howell, Michigan, but we had a solo campus at Mott, and you can go online as well. But anyway, one of the brothers I graduated with, one of my alumni buddies, that go to Catholic Church. That's a priest. I speak there. I speak history. That's why when people be saying this is happening and this is happening, I'm like, that ain't happening with me. If anybody researched me and seen me on Facebook and YouTube and the years I've been doing what I've been doing, I ain't had no problem. I ain't changed nothing the way I speak. What I tell people is for us, we lost. We let religion separate us. We let certain individuals that I like to call gatekeepers to keep us subjugated. Most older preachers are Masons, with all due respect. Most of them know what I'm talking about. They may act like they don't, but if my other colleagues, my European colleagues that's Masons, that's sons of Muslims, if they know what I'm talking about, what's up with us, my brothers and sisters? If they understand that they are son of a Muslim and we call ourselves widow sons, it's something wrong with that mental. So when people say secret, it's nothing secret with me. It's sacred. I already removed the veil on all secret societies and religious dogma, the same way our prophet have done, with education, with truth. I've done lectures with professors in all different backgrounds. So when it comes to language, for us as a people, we linguistically are off basis because we letting things that we don't understand keep us separate. So if you say you a Muslim and a Christian, and I say, okay, when I get that, both of your books and synchronize them, and then if you say you understand and you a people, then what is going to be based on? What is your disagreement is going to be based on? It's going to be based on a belief system or a belie, believing in things that can't be proven. Think about what I'm saying here, brothers and sisters, from an educational perspective, from a wisdom perspective. Before someone brought some colonized book to you, as a colonizer per se, what did you learn? What did you know? Before someone brought some to you in a different language that wasn't your language, what did you have? Because when I show people historically, you already had some things. You got to understand what I'm saying, and everybody that on here that's a scholar and a truth teller, you know I'm teaching the truth. So somebody got to tell me why it's not spreading with my brothers and sisters that have connections to the children and to the adults and ministries and things in this. Why it's not connecting with my people, but it's connecting with everyone else. And then we always say something is hidden from us, or someone got some more power than us, or some group know more information of what's going on than us, because we don't have the proper people known to do that, to make sure they can do that, because everything is bullcrap. So it got to be a reason, because all these people that I know go to church still, brothers and sisters, it's nothing happening. I mean, somebody got to tell me something. When people want things to be taught and things, and I say, well, we can have our own. How? With the money we giving away to Uncle Sam. I say this all day. Because what is our babies being taught? Is 1, 2, 3. These couple books I just showed, adults don't even know what this all about. Adults never seen The Forgotten Cause of the Civil War. Remember, if you had a tittle piece of Negro blood in you, you were considered a Negro. You remember J. Edgar Hoover said that America's biggest problem was the misnomer black man coming together. And we still can't come together now. Why? Because we have allowed religion and mistransliteration keep us separate. That's the whole plan. Think about what I'm saying. I just showed you the Islam and that connection. That connection, it's a connection. And then when people say this, I'll just get historically and say, well, a lot of that stuff is old Jewish text. I show how the Book of Mormon is plagiarized from the view of the Hebrews. I don't play no black lie or no white lie. I'm not on anyone's side. This truth can stand like a lion and defend itself. Remember, when I talk about the Willie Lynch, I did this in academia. I showed my brothers and sisters that it's no Willie Lynch letter. That's propaganda. It ain't, black was never used to describe ethnicity in the first century. That's propaganda. It was made up by a certain individual, and when they saw that the misnomer Negro, black, and colored African Americans and the leaders, that they had let that roll, they let it roll. And I'm just giving you a crash course on that. No one in the first century that was a slave owner or a slave wrote about no Lynch, no Willie Lynch. Frederick Douglass ain't write about no Willie Lynch. No first century writers during that time ain't wrote about no Willie Lynch. And this is what I be telling my brothers and sisters. I said, man, we have been miseducated, and we're going to continue to teach our kids this false, this Eurocentric, and this Negrocentric propaganda. Even with Roots, I had the pleasure to lecture this and disperse this. I knew professors and high school teachers that have that required reading. What? Some Roots for the kids, talking about some fake Kunta Kinte. And I said, that ain't even real. Alex Haley, that ain't even original. Alex Haley plagiarized that whole Kunta Kinte mess from a European named Harold Colander. He wrote a book called The African, and then they made TV series of this propaganda. Research what I'm telling y'all, brothers and sisters. It's all Roots. It's fake. It's made up. It's a book called The African by Harold Colander, a European, a lower-level Freemason. The same way Zachariah Stitchin talk about the Anunnaki as some alien, and the Anunnaki is the Iberian. I lectured this as well. All his books is pseudo. And then when I tell people I don't deal with the black lie or a white lie, because the same way we're going to illuminate the so-called white lie, we have to disperse the so-called black lie, or illuminate it per se, with truth. Let me give you another truth bomb, no matter how anyone feel. We dealing with truth. And if you rocking with me, just tell me. If I'm saying something that you can't research easy while I'm talking, tell me you can't find it. Because I know you can find what I'm saying. I'm telling you right now, out of the words of my mouth, no matter how many dashikis you put on, no matter how much kente cloth you put on right now, I don't care what you say. Roots, I'm not Roots, but Kwanzaa ain't real. And then misnomer black people with that pro-black go back to Africa, with all due respect. They be butthurt when I say that. What you mean Kwanzaa ain't no historical. Leave me alone with that goofy stuff. Kwanzaa is only as old as Ron Karinga. So miss me with the bull crap. What you mean, Sheik? You heard what I just said. I'm sorry. I'm not on nobody's side. I'm on the truth side. It can stand like a lion. I'm telling you that some damn Kwanzaa was made up by a COINTELPRO named Ron Karinga. Look what Ron Karinga did. So if you an empress on here and you down for women not being abused and this, not, and the other, well, Ron Karinga abused women. He sold out the damn Panthers. Tell me I'm lying. Anybody, tell me I'm lying, because that's just a quick Google search. What? Everything I'm talking about ain't nothing but a quick touch of the damn finger. Tell me I'm lying. And then you got these people hit me up, we celebrating Kwanzaa, and we doing this. I had an empress hit me up, would you come talk at our Kwanzaa special and talk about the historicalness of Kwanzaa? I said, I'm going to make y'all mad. I said, I'm going to make y'all mad. She was like, why? Because I said, I can't come and talk about no historicalness of no Kwanzaa, and it's not historical. Well, what do you mean, sir? Kwanzaa is only as old as Ron Karinga. Well, who is Ron Karinga? I said, ma'am, you having a Kwanzaa celebration, the historicalness of Kwanzaa, and you don't even know who the originator and who started this Kwanzaa? You don't know? Come on, ma'am. We're supposed to be educating people. Now, I ain't telling you what not to do, but I'm telling you, we're supposed to be educating people. Because a lot of things got people off the real mission. Are y'all listening to what I'm saying? You see? And that's why kids be upset. Think about what I'm saying. Just like right now, Everybody on here, I asked a panel of kids, I said, without looking in your phone, tell me what kumbaya mean. They said, oh, my mom done told me it means stand up and arise. I mean, not stand up and arise, but come by here. I said, yep, that's what you've been told. Everyone been told it means come by here. So we just been told a lot of stuff that's meaningless. Come on, y'all, somebody talk to me. Everything I'm saying can be researched. Watch this. I'm gonna ask a couple of questions before I get out of here. If you look in the 1828 Webster Dictionary, what do it say American is? This not even hard. If you look in the 1828 Webster Dictionary, what does it say an American is? There's a lot of stuff I ask the kids. They be like, it says blah, blah, blah. And they be like, well, why we never taught this? And I said, because you have to have extra studies. We call it seventh hour. Parents have to be willing to donate, and then we have to have the right people to apply for grants and things to take it to a bigger stage. Think about this. What does the 1828 Webster Dictionary tell you what an American is? This is easy. If you got a smartphone, be smart. Just ask it. This stuff is not hard. This is elementary. Watch, because when you know that, then I'm going to ask you another question. A copper color person now given to the European. Okay, a copper color racist. Okay. So then when I ask a person, what's the Declaration of Human Rights, Article 15? See, these are things that we got to agree with when people talk about treaties and the Constitution ain't for us and this. And I said, man, listen, you don't understand. You don't know how to have reason and do things and bring up things if they're precedent. You can argue all day. I don't bark. Everything I'm talking about, I already done. Everything. Everything I speak on, I've done in the flesh. So if there's some things that you don't know, it ain't my fault. I make it plain. I just ask people, what's the Declaration of Human Rights, Article 15? And when I say this stuff, people should know this. Come on, Abe, a right to a nationality, and nobody shall be arbitrarily denied of a nationality and a right to change it, and to claim a child replacing a birth certificate. So what you arguing about? Now, it's a lot of stuff that used to be easily looked up on the internet, like the House Joint Resolution 75. But now, a lot of stuff has been taken out the archives. Like the House Joint Resolution 75 clearly states that you have a right to annex your L, your bay, your day. You can pull up the document in 1985 where the mayor signed the Proclamation Declaration. And then you can find it in 2012. When I talk about the religious rights of the indigenous people, what you mean, Sheik? The religious rights of the indigenous people. What do that mean? I don't know. See, that's your fault. Because I do. You don't understand the religious rights of the indigenous people. So if you free, your nationality and your spirituality are the 2/5 that was taken from you. From what? From that fake slavery. From that chattel slavery, per se. And when they say persons, they just put you in another ownership. I'm telling you, any lawyer won't tell you the truth. I had the pleasure to be able to have these conversations in academia. I'm telling you. I'll throw another scenario out to you. If you pull up the SF 181 form, when a lot of people think they smart, and a form would be put in front of you, and it asks you, fill out everything pertaining to you. And you get that document, and it has Negro, black, this, and that, and the other. Then it have white. And you don't read what white mean. And you don't understand what it asks you. You don't even understand what the document asks you. You didn't read it all. Most people will put black. And then people that be thinking they smart, they be like, I'm going to make a box and pick other. You just voided the whole contract. You on there. But people don't understand. When I talk about navigating, a lot of us don't understand. If this mean that, then that mean this. What you mean? Hey, you don't have eyes to see. You don't have ears, you're not listening. Race. status. So it's documents that when people clearly don't be understanding, it's a whole document that talk about white by law and what that really consists of. Remember, it's a whole book, the Spencer and Dungy case. Remember remember before Abraham Lincoln was the president, what that Abe? Yeah, he was a attorney, and see what that's all about. You can pull it up. You'll be like, really? And it's dealing with the whole more understanding. You'll be like, huh? You'll be like, well, yes, you'll start understanding language. You'll start understanding history, and all this stuff go to tie together. I ask a lot of people that because I like to have these conversations, and I don't know if y'all remember a while ago when they had T.I., Tavis Smiley, they had I think Dr. Carnell West, and they had some other people on there, and they was asking them, well, who are we? They was talking about reparations and all this, and here it is, you got these PhDs and all these professors and all this on this panel, and then when I started thinking about things, because Carnell West taught at Harvard, you know, so when I started thinking about all these things, right, brothers and sisters, and no one never bring up the Constitution with the 20 sections, or no one ever bring up treaties that was broken. No one ever bring up basic things that I'm saying, like the Declaration of Human Rights and the House Joint Resolution, and even what a black mean pertaining to law is civiliter mortis, dead in the eyes of the law, and all these other ramifications when we talk about a white by law, and all these conversations that we should have before we even move forward to see, do we agree or even disagree on things that's precedented, because most people be worried about what somebody else is. I'll be like, forget that. You know, you're not concerned about who you are more important than anything else. Think about think about these things, brothers and sisters, as you know, I'll get ready to close with what we was talking about. We covered a lot of bases. We covered a lot of topics, but a lot of this stuff is not common, especially the forgotten cause of the Civil War. When people really get a grasp to hold that, and I say, well, do you know what happened? If you had that tittle of blood in you, you would be considered a what? Yeah, and it's a lot that's going on in the world. That it's like a playbook. It's another book called Tavistock of of Human Engineering by John Coleman. I recommend people to take a look at that. So that's all I have for y'all, brothers and sisters, this morning before I get my day started. But this right here, the real Indian, is the Negro, aka the Blackamoor. It's a good doc to have, for you can read and study, brothers and sisters. But yeah, once again, y'all have my information. If anybody wants these pieces of wisdom, all you got to do is hit me up. You can get them for a small donation to our book club. I'll get them right to your email. There's no problem. Just like that. And today, Friday, is Holy Day. I think one of my muftis going to be having a book club reading later on today. We on different time periods. I'll be back later on tonight, if I'm not mistaken, about 6 or 7. But yeah, with that being said, man, once again, you got that melanin, the chemical key to black greatness, that forgotten cause of the Civil War, Russian icons, and America's oldest secret. Well, I won't call it a secret, but this right here, man, is definitely eye opening. It's definitely eye opening, and I think if anybody is into history and science and spirituality and just learning, I think our vibration has connected. You know, if we want to learn a little bit more about history, civics, or anything, man, y'all get with me and share this. let's get our panels going on. I'll come on your channel, or you can come on my channel. I don't know how to do that. I'll come on your channel. I'll share books with y'all. Hell, I even come to your area, man, with all love and respect. But once again, man, thank y'all for your time. Oh, yeah, it's time. And today is Friday. Happy Holy Day. Happy Juma to all my brothers and sisters. I come with peace and love and light. Have a good Friday.